We can't always keep verbal aggression out of our arguments, but there are ways of dealing with it when it does appear that help minimize its destructive impacts. The first is simply to take leave of the situation for a while. When the blood really starts to boil, we often don't say things that are very productive. So, when we can recognize that verbal aggression has appeared, we can just take a step back, take a while to go for a walk, get collected, and then come back to the discussion when the verbal aggressiveness has died down a bit. We can also make sure that as we're working through our argument, that we're distinguishing between arguments and verbal aggression. So to be able to identify the characteristics of what constructive arguing is and what verbal aggression is allows us to evaluate the progress that the argument is making. So to be able to say, well, we've kind of strayed into some aggressiveness here, we're attacking each other individually, maybe we need to step back. That's an important thing, and it's an okay thing to introduce into the conversation, because what you want to try to avoid is that spiral of verbal aggression. So to be able to identify it, if somebody's making an impassioned argument and it's strong and it still focuses on the advancement of ideas, that's okay. But as soon as it strays into this personal nature, then we need to be able to step back. So distinguishing between the two is a very valuable aspect of engaging in these types of interpersonal arguments. We can also ask the individual who has engaged in the verbal aggression to justify why they did it. Sometimes we're not even really aware of it, or we may be able to use their response to our question about why they did it to address a particular concern that they have. So obviously, when people get verbally aggressive, it's sometimes because they're threatened or because they're scared of the situation. So if we can address that source of fear or the reason that they're scared, then maybe we can move forward in a more productive way. And another thing that it does is it just lets them know that we've noticed that this appeared, and maybe they didn't intend for it, and they could just say, well, I'm sorry, I didn't mean to go that far with it. I just got a little carried away. And that's okay. We can also appeal to rationality. Obviously, this involves a commitment to the true nature of argumentation and to be able to engage in strong arguments, the advancement of ideas, the elimination of fallacies, and to move forward on a particular issue, to maintain a rational or somewhat objective perspective on moving forward. And then the last thing that we can do is refuse to engage in the verbal aggression ourselves. So it's very tempting to respond to verbal aggression by making our own attack, because now we've been threatened. How are we supposed to fight back? But if we think about the larger process and what we're really trying to do, we're trying to win relationships and produce better ideas. It's very hard to do that if no one is willing to step back and say, wait a minute, I don't want to go there with this conversation. I want to keep it focused on the advancement of the ideas, and I want to maintain the relationship that I have with you in the process of doing that. So to simply refuse to engage in that verbal aggression is a very powerful way of maybe calming things down for the moment and putting it back on the right track and emphasizing advancement of ideas and the winning of relationships again.